The wind whispers through the trees outside your study, carrying with it the faint scent of ink and old bamboo. Your hands, aged and steady, guide the brush across the bamboo strips before you. The symbols flow with precision, each stroke carrying the weight of your life's work. These words will endure long after you are gone. For now, they are yours. Soon they will belong to the world. But before you finish this task, you pause. The memories flood back of a life lived in pursuit of virtue, of rejection and hardship, and of the ideals that sustained you through it all. Let me tell you your story, the journey that brought you here. You were not born into wealth or power. Your father died when you were just a child, leaving your mother to raise you alone. She worked tirelessly, teaching you that knowledge and virtue could elevate even the lowliest of men. Your home in the state of Lu was modest, surrounded by fields. The streets of your village were alive with the shouts of merchants, the laughter of children, and the constant hum of life. You would sit by the roadside, watching scholars pass with scrolls tucked under their arms. To you, they seemed like gods, men who understood the world in ways others could not. You wanted to be like them, to know what they knew. At the age of 15, you dedicated yourself to learning. By the time you reached manhood, your reputation for wisdom had begun to spread. But wisdom without action is like a bird without wings. You longed to use what you had learned to bring order to the chaos around you. The state of Lu, like much of China, was plagued by corruption. Noble families fought for power, their greed suffocating the common people. Rituals meant to honor the ancestors had become hollow displays of vanity. The streets of Lu were crowded with beggars, merchants shouting over one another, and soldiers who looked more like thugs than protectors. When you were called to serve in Lu's government, you saw it as an opportunity to bring change. Your days were spent in the palace, a sprawling structure of carved wood and stone. Its halls were filled with the whispers of advisors and the clinking of gold coins. You advocated for reforms, dismantling city walls to prevent noble families from hoarding power, restoring ancient rituals to instill respect and unity. For a time, it seemed you were succeeding. The streets grew quieter, the people more hopeful. But power is a stubborn beast. Those who benefited from the old ways conspired against you. Deals were made in the shadows, and your reforms were blocked at every turn. One night, as you walked through the streets of Lu, the light of paper lanterns flickering above you, you realized you could not stay. The state you had given your heart to had turned its back on you. For the next 13 years, you wandered. Your disciples followed you as you traveled from one state to another, crossing mountains and rivers, enduring hunger and rejection. You still remember the frost that bit at your fingers during harsh winters, the taste of wild roots when there was no other food. But one journey stands out above the rest, a time when soldiers surrounded you in a cold mountain pass, their bronze swords glinting in the pale dawn light. They had orders to detain you, though you had done no wrong. Supplies ran out after 2 days, and your disciples, once so full of energy and faith, sat in silence, their faces hollowed by hunger and fear. Yan Hui, ever the kindest among them, knelt beside you. "Master," he whispered, his voice trembling, "we cannot last much longer. They will either starve us or strike." You placed a hand on his shoulder. "Even in the face of death, we must not abandon what we know to be right. A virtuous man is steadfast, even when surrounded by shadows." The soldiers taunted you from the perimeter, shouting insults and laughing as they roasted meat over their fires. The scent wafted through the air, a cruel reminder of what you lacked. Zilu, the most fiery of your students, rose suddenly, his fists clenched. "Master, let me go to them," he growled. "I will challenge their leader myself if I must." "No, Zilu, you said firmly. Anger clouds the mind. We do not meet fire with fire. That night, as the frost thickened on the ground, you gazed at the stars above. Even in this dire moment, they shone with clarity, their light untouched by the turmoil below. You whispered a prayer to the heavens, not for rescue, but for strength. The next morning, you called your disciples together. We will not give in to despair, you said. We will compose songs and recite poetry to lift our spirits. Let our captors see that even in hardship, we are unbroken. At first, they looked at you as though you had lost your mind, but slowly, one by one, they joined in. Yan Hui began with a soft melody, his voice rising above the cold air. Zilu, begrudgingly at first, recited lines of poetry. The others followed, their voices blending into a harmony that defied the soldiers' taunts. Hours passed, and a strange thing happened. The soldiers, who had jeered and laughed before, grew silent. Some even sat down, listening to the sound of your voices. By the third day, their leader approached your camp. "You are either a madman or a man of unshakable will," he said. "My men have grown uneasy, watching you sing while starving. Leave this place and do not return to this state." You bowed deeply. "Your mercy honors you. May the heavens watch over you." You left that day, your body weak but your spirit intact. This was just one of many trials, but it taught your disciples the strength of virtue and the power of endurance. Now, in the quiet of your later years, you sit in your study, surrounded by the works of your hand. The book of songs, the book of documents, the rituals of the ancients, all of it preserved so that future generations might learn what you have learned. You think of your disciples often. They were more than students, they were your family. Yan Hui, so pure of heart, gone too soon. Zilu, bold and brash, yet loyal to the end. History will judge you, you suppose. Some will call you a failure, a man whose ideas were too idealistic for the world. Others will see you as a bridge, a link between the chaos of the past and the order of the future. As for you, you are content. You are Confucius, a man who sought harmony in the midst of discord, who believed that virtue could light even the darkest paths. This is your story, and though you will soon leave this world, your words will remain. Perhaps one day they will find someone like you.